We're very pleased to welcome Iain, G7III, to talk about his ultra-micro portable station. So Iain, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Barry. I'm sure some of you thought you heard the last of me yesterday. Sorry. But yeah, this morning I'm going to talk about what you call an ultra or just a micro portable ground station is up to you. It actually started life as a very portable terrestrial microwave receive station for receiving beacons. But let's make a start. And so we'll do the usual. We'll talk about the situation and what the requirements were, some of the previous adventures, and, well, what instead of those particular adventures, we'll talk about antennas and bands that it covers or can cover. We'll talk about the radios. We'll talk about the computers. We'll talk about how we power it all. And there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end, because there's no way this is going to take 45 minutes. So, this is the scenario. It's a single operator, but it's two-legged mobile and public transport only. And I happen to like climbing hills and operating satellite and terrestrial microwaves at the top when I get there. Also, bear in mind, since we're actually two-legged mobile, if it don't fit in the rucksack, it don't come. You know. So, what have I done in the past? I've been up hiking hills with wideband PCB antennas, portable telescopic masks, Raspberry Pi 4 with the 8 gig of RAM attached to the back of a 7 or 10 inch touchscreen. Some of you in the audience would have seen that kit. It needs various batteries and wires and rolls of tape, etc. You know. So all of the earlier adventures were very much terrestrial microwave beacon spotting, and all except one were pretty successful with multiple beacons heard. That one was always marginal anyway, and the weather came in. But when you're on top of a hill, trying to keep a short telescopic pole vertical is not easy. It's harder than you would think, especially if it's on top of the Worcestershire beacon and it's still blowing a gale, along with other challenges involved with that, like keeping the antennas pointed in the direction you want them pointing. So, what were the challenges with that? Well, taping everything up to the telescopic mast, and then, as I say, trying to keep it pointed in the right direction in any wind, because it would tend to rotate, as well as bend in the wind. As I say, antennas, SDRs, and PIs can very easily get twisted as you actually tape them to the mast. I found that happen more often than not. The other thing that isn't listed on this slide, but if you want to change antennas for different bands or whatever, it takes longer than you think, because you've got to basically strike half the station and then put the other half of the station back up. So, is there a better alternative? Well, I had a thought one evening. I think I was watching some science program or other, and they had the famous chemistry stand that we would all have known from school. The official name is the retort stand. That has a far sturdier base, and then any telescopic pole. Its pole, for want of a better term, is obviously sturdier, but you can attach multiple things to it. It's shorter than a 2 to 3 meter telescopic pole, but since we're talking satellites, that's not such an issue. And if you do need the extra height, you can basically attach extra poles vertically to it to get that extra height. So we have two examples here. On the left is standard retort stand. They're 25 quid off eBay. On the right is my version with 3 antennas on it, and we'll go into those in a minute, but pretty much you can see there's an LMB there. You can see there is a ground plane for 77s. The antenna on the right hand side is actually a log periodic PCB, which pretty much covers every band from L band upwards to I think it goes to 27 gig, but that's not the limit of the antenna, that's the limit of the SMA connector. So, yeah, a bit more detail here. The log periodic, as you see, covers 1.2 gig upwards, including the QO100 uplink. LMB is there for QO100 downlink and for 10 gig beacons. Ground plane antenna, as I say, for 77s. And the coax you can see there coming off the 77s antenna is a little bit of low loss ASL5 coax. What's actually coming out the back of the LMB is just some 75 ohm cheap coax, to say the least, because it doesn't need it. I think the battery's gone. There's only a few more slides here. So, what about the radios? Well, as some of you will know, I'm very much into SDRs, software-defined radios. So, if you're only interested in 1.2 gig and below, then a dongle will suffice. The Adnam Plutos can be used for bands up to 3.4 gig, as can the Lime SDR Mini. The Hack RF will add 5 gig, and the LMB will cover 10 gig and QO100, but will require a 5 to 12 volt power adapter for the bias T. Next slide, please. So, the computers. Pi 4 8 gig is more than sufficient. Not tried a Pi 5 yet, because I can't get hold of one yet. Trust me, it's on the list. You can attach it, a Pi to a 7 or 10 inch touchscreen, or a mini HDMI touchscreen. Yeah. The dongle, or a Lime SDR Mini, can be attached directly to the USB port of a Pi. I usually take my 10 inch touchscreen in Pi, just because it's a bit easier to look at than the 7 inch, a bit easier to use than the 7 inch. Next slide, please, Kieran. Okay. So, how do we power all of this stuff? Well, I use 5 volt USB power packs. And having done a number of experiments with these, I can run for 4 to 8 hours with 100,000 milliamp hour power packs. Be aware, you're not allowed to take them on aircraft. I also use a 5 to 12 volt USB adapter for the bias T, which again you can get on eBay quite quite cheaply. What they do though is I carry multiple. A, for redundancy in case I've forgotten to charge one the night before or something, but also to split the load, because the Pi does take quite a bit of current, especially inrush current when you first boot it. So I'll generally run the entire station off 2,100 milliamp hour 5-volt power banks. Just makes it easy. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we've seen what I've built so far. Now, what's next? Part of me wants to see if I can add a turnstile for 2 and for the weather satellites. Does need to be lightweight enough to carry. As I said earlier, it needs to fit in the rucksack, but it's also got to be lightweight enough it doesn't tip the stand over. Maybe a convenient rock or brick will solve that problem, but that would depend on wherever I am. Next slide, please. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I told you it wasn't going to last full 45 minutes. Any questions? Yeah.
Have you tried a lesser Pi that would have less of a power demand? Because the 4 with 8 gig is sort of top of the range in that sort of style, isn't it?
Short answer, no. The longer answer, I kind of like the horsepower it gives, because you are doing SDR. But to be honest, if I can get 4 to 8 hours out of it, I'm probably not going up on top of the hill for much longer than that. Yeah, so it's really horses for courses. And one thing I forgot to mention, of course, when I walk up the hill, I generally make a note of where the pubs are and have a point on the way down. So, I can't see me staying 8 hours on top of a hill. Any other questions? Other questions? Someone must have one.
Yeah. What's your thoughts about using patch panel antennas? Simple, they take up next to no space. It stops your mint cake getting broken up when you're sitting on the cold auspices of the hill.
Okay, patch antennas. Yes, would certainly work for QL100. Truth is, I've got other PCB antennas. That was just a convenient one for that particular shot, because this audience is based on, QL100 and satellites, and so that was a full, QL100 antenna system, which I know people have used similar things in the past. More questions? Anything on the... No? Okay. Nothing on the stream? Okay. Well, in that case, thank you very much for listening to me for 15 to 20 minutes. And yes, it does. And yes, that has been up a hill. So yeah, it does work.
Thank you very much, Iain. That's certainly a micro and a lesson to us all about what can actually be achieved.